In the shimmer of a summer meadow, a striped figure hovers just above the grasses. To the untrained eye, it is nothing more than a bee patrolling blossoms, its body draped in golden fuzz, its wings catching the light with the familiar hum of an industrious pollinator. Yet in the blink of an eye, this apparent flower visitor transforms into something else entirely. A smaller insect rises into the air, a butterfly, perhaps a beetle on the wing, only to be intercepted mid-flight by a blur of precision and violence. The striped predator collides with its prey like a fighter jet locking onto a target, clutching it tightly with spiny legs before driving a needle-like mouthpart deep into its body. What appeared to be a bee was never a bee at all, but a robber fly, one of the most formidable aerial hunters in the insect world. The giant robber fly belongs to a family known as Acilidae, a lineage of predators whose evolutionary success depends on deception and speed. Unlike bees or wasps, which are largely herbivores or communal hunters, the robber fly operates alone, relying on disguise to buy precious seconds of approach time. Its mimicry is not coincidental. Many species in this group have evolved to resemble stinging hymenopterans, complete with banded abdomens, fuzzy thoraxes, and even wing postures that echo those of wasps. To a bird or lizard scanning the meadow, these imposters seem unwise to tangle with. Yet for unsuspecting insects, the disguise works in reverse, allowing the robber fly to close the gap before the prey realizes that danger is at hand. The weapon at the heart of this assassin's toolkit is its proboscis, not the soft, flexible drinking straw of a butterfly, but a rigid, dagger-like hypodermic tube. Once prey is secured in mid-air, the fly thrusts this proboscis into the body, releasing a cocktail of enzymes and neurotoxins. The neurotoxins paralyze muscles almost instantly, halting any attempt at escape. The enzymes, meanwhile, liquefy internal tissues into a digestible broth. What begins as a buzzing, thrashing victim quickly becomes still, as the robber fly sucks nourishment directly from the hollowed body. It is an efficient system, turning living insects into meals in minutes, a perfect adaptation for a hunter that must consume high-protein diets to fuel its athletic flights. The hunting strategy of the robber fly combines patience with explosive bursts of motion. Unlike dragonflies, which cruise continuously over ponds, robber flies prefer to perch. They choose vantage points, sunlit twigs, tall grasses, fence posts, from which they can scan wide areas of open space. Their eyes, enormous and multifaceted, dominate the head, providing a panoramic view of movement in all directions. When a potential target crosses their field, the robber fly launches with startling acceleration. In slow motion, the strike resembles the calculated launch of a missile, a straight trajectory, unerring aim, and interception that often occurs before the prey has even registered pursuit. Few aerial insects can dodge such precision. To understand how this efficiency evolved, one must consider the challenges of aerial predation. Most flying insects are erratic, weaving in unpredictable paths, making interception nearly impossible for predators without exceptional speed and targeting systems. Robber flies compensate with acute vision and high-speed neural processing. Their eyes are divided into zones that specialize in detecting movement against the sky, allowing them to calculate not only the position, but also the velocity of their prey. This ability to predict flight paths and launch accordingly is what grants them such startling success rates, rivaling those of raptors many thousands of times their size. The mimicry of bees and wasps is a layered advantage. To larger predators, birds in particular, the bright stripes and buzzing flight patterns signal danger. Few birds risk swallowing a stinger, and so the robber fly gains protection from aerial hunters that might otherwise snatch it from its perch. To insects, the disguise is equally useful. Bees and wasps often approach flowers or hover within the same airspace as potential prey species. By resembling them, the robber fly can blend seamlessly into these micro-communities, arousing no suspicion until the fatal strike. The deception is doubly effective, a shield from being eaten and a cloak for approaching its own quarry. One might imagine that such a ruthless predator is rare, an occasional anomaly in the insect world. In truth, robber flies are abundant across much of the globe, from deserts to forests to grasslands. The giant varieties, such as those found in North America, can reach lengths of more than 1 inch, making them among the largest flies in the hemisphere. Their size grants them access to larger prey than most aerial predators could handle. Grasshoppers, dragonflies, bees, and even other robber flies can fall victim. In effect, the giant robber fly is an apex predator of the skies, a creature that exerts pressure on multiple insect populations while itself rarely being challenged. Yet even an apex hunter must balance risk and reward. Capturing stinging prey is not without danger. Bees and wasps can sometimes wound or even kill the robber fly during an attempted strike. For this reason, the fly's speed and precision are critical. It rarely engages in prolonged battles. Success depends on rapid immobilization. If the venom fails or the grip slips, the tables can turn. This evolutionary arms race is ongoing, as prey species develop evasive maneuvers and predators refine their tactics in response. The life cycle of the robber fly further illustrates its predatory specialization. The larvae, concealed in soil or decaying wood, are themselves hunters. They feed on soft-bodied insects, pupating only after months of predation beneath the surface. When adults emerge, they already carry the neural and muscular architecture for aerial combat, honed by millions of years of evolution. The transition from subterranean hunter to aerial assassin mirrors the transformation from ambush predator to jet fighter intercept pilot. Ecologically, robber flies play a subtle but important role. By preying on a wide variety of insects, they help regulate populations that might otherwise explode unchecked. This includes agricultural pests such as grasshoppers and beetles. Farmers may not see them as allies in the same way as ladybugs or parasitic wasps, but their contribution to ecosystem balance is significant. At the same time, their predation on pollinators such as bees complicates their role. Nature rarely deals in absolutes of good or bad. The robber fly embodies this ambiguity, both protector and threat depending on context. For humans, encounters with robber flies are often startling. Their size, speed, and mimicry can alarm those who mistake them for aggressive wasps. Though they can bite if handled, they are not a serious danger to people. The bite, delivered through the same proboscis used on prey, is painful but typically harmless. Observing them in the wild, however, offers a window into a world of aerial strategy few ever notice. Each perch and launch sequence is a microdrama of patience, calculation, and sudden violence. In the grand theatre of insect survival, the giant robber fly is a character that demonstrates how evolution refines not only bodies, but also behaviors. Mimicry, weaponry, and strategy converge in a predator that survives not through brute force, but through disguise and precision. To watch one strike is to witness the essence of adaptation distilled, an insect that is not what it seems, yet exactly what it needs to be. As the meadow hums with bees and butterflies, the shadow of the assassin remains, waiting on a sunlit perch. It is not the flowers or nectar that keep it aloft, but the endless opportunities drifting by on fragile wings. For every insect that rises into the sky, there is a chance, a calculated risk, that a robber fly will descend upon it, transforming the illusion of harmless fuzz into the reality of predatory dominance. In a world where survival depends on deception, the robber fly stands unmatched, a master of disguise and a hunter whose methods are as ruthless as they are refined. In the quiet glow of early morning, a flower patch hums with activity. Bumblebees drift from blossom to blossom, their legs dusted yellow with pollen, their bodies shuttling energy between plants in an age-old exchange of nectar for pollination. At first glance, one of the heavy-bodied visitors seems no different from the rest. A stout insect with glistening wings, its thorax cloaked in golden fuzz. But rather than climbing obediently into the flower's throat to brush against its reproductive parts, this bee hovers at the base of the bloom. With practiced precision, she grips the petal and lowers her head. Then, using jaws strong enough to carve into solid wood, she punctures a neat hole just above the nectar chamber. In a moment, her tongue dips into the stolen reserve. No pollen is transferred. No service is offered. This is theft carried out with the quiet efficiency of experience. The culprit is not a bumblebee at all, but a carpenter bee, a solitary opportunist with a talent for bending ecological rules to her advantage. Carpenter bees are among the largest bees in the world, their bodies often shimmering in shades of metallic blue or deep black, their size rivaling that of small wasps. Unlike their social cousins, the honeybees, they do not build elaborate hives or cooperate in large colonies. Instead, females bore into untreated wood, creating galleries that serve as brood chambers for their larvae. From these hidden nurseries, adults emerge each spring with a dual mission: to feed themselves and to provision the next generation. It is in this pursuit of nectar that carpenter bees reveal their unusual strategies, some of which position them as indispensable partners in ecosystems and others as outright cheats. The act of nectar robbery begins with anatomy. Carpenter bees possess powerful mandibles designed not just for chewing through timber, but also for breaching plant tissue. When faced with flowers whose nectar lies deep beyond the reach of their tongues, rather than abandoning the prize, they carve a shortcut. The entry point is at the flower's base, where the corolla wall is thinnest. Through this small incision, the bee bypasses the reproductive structures entirely, extracting nectar without carrying pollen to the next bloom. For the plant, the theft undermines the mutualistic bargain upon which flowering reproduction depends. For the bee, it is a time-saving, energy-efficient solution that ensures a high-calorie payoff. Yet the story is not one of simple dishonesty. Carpenter bees are also capable of one of the most remarkable pollination techniques in the insect world: buzz pollination, also called sonication. Certain plants, such as tomatoes, blueberries, and cranberries, keep their pollen locked inside tube-like anthers, inaccessible to ordinary pollinators. For these species, the only effective release comes from vibration at precise frequencies. Carpenter bees land on the flower, grip the anthers tightly with their mandibles, and activate the flight muscles in their thorax without flapping their wings. The result is a low, resonant buzz that sends a tremor through the flower, shaking loose clouds of pollen in a sudden golden explosion. This shower coats the bee's body and in turn fertilizes subsequent flowers. Without such sonic manipulation, these plants would fail to reproduce efficiently. What is fascinating is that the same insect can be both thief and benefactor, choosing between robbery and pollination depending on the circumstance. In some cases, a carpenter bee may first cut a hole for nectar and then, when visiting a different type of flower, employ buzz pollination. This behavioral flexibility illustrates the opportunism that underpins much of insect survival. There is no moral calculus in the bee's choice, only an evolutionary logic: maximize intake while minimizing expenditure. For the plant community, this duality produces mixed outcomes. Some flowers lose nectar reserves without any reproductive gain, while others flourish thanks to the bee's vibrational gift. The ecological impact of nectar robbery is surprisingly complex. While some studies show reduced seed production in plants targeted by carpenter bees, others reveal compensatory benefits. Secondary visitors, such as smaller bees and butterflies, may use the pre-cut holes left behind, extending nectar access to species that could not otherwise reach it. In this way, the carpenter bee inadvertently alters the flow of energy through a floral community, reshaping networks of interaction in subtle but significant ways. A patch of flowers raided by carpenter bees may end up serving a broader spectrum of pollinators than one left untouched. The line between parasitism and facilitation becomes blurred. On farms, the relationship with carpenter bees is equally ambivalent. Growers of crops that require buzz pollination rely heavily on wild bee populations, since honeybees cannot perform sonication. Tomatoes in particular depend on the thoracic vibrations of bees like carpenter bees and bumblebees for proper fruit set. Without these vibrations, pollen remains locked inside the anthers and yields decline dramatically. While greenhouse operations often import commercial bumblebee colonies to ensure consistent pollination, carpenter bees contribute naturally in open field environments. Their role can make the difference between a poor harvest and a successful one. Yet at the same time, the same insects may be robbing nectar from other valuable crops, diminishing overall productivity. For farmers, this paradox underscores the difficulty of controlling ecological partnerships. Carpenter bees' strength and independence are reflected not only in their feeding habits, but also in their nesting choices. True to their name, females excavate tunnels in exposed wood, fence posts, eaves, even wooden furniture, earning them an uneasy reputation among homeowners. Each tunnel is meticulously crafted, lined with pollen provisions, and sealed off with plugs of chewed wood pulp. Within these chambers, larvae develop in relative safety, nourished by the pollen loaves left by their mothers. Unlike social bees, which rely on cooperative defense of a colony, carpenter bees depend on the strength of their wooden fortresses and the secrecy of their solitary existence. Their mandibles, capable of biting into seasoned timber, are the same tools that cut through floral bases during nectar robbery. The link between home construction and food theft is literal. Wood and flower alike are vulnerable to the bees' unyielding jaws. The vibrations of carpenter bees, however, remain their most distinctive feature. At close range, the buzz of sonication is deeper and more resonant than ordinary flight. Scientists have measured these frequencies, finding them to be tuned precisely to maximize pollen release. It is a case of coevolution in action, plants evolving to hide pollen within tough anthers, and bees evolving muscular control to unlock it. This interplay demonstrates how conflict and cooperation intertwine in nature, with both sides adapting in response to each other. While the plant ensures that only the most capable pollinators gain access, the bee secures an exclusive food source, reducing competition from less specialized insects. Even the act of nectar robbery carries evolutionary echoes. Some flowers, faced with persistent robbery, have developed thicker corolla walls or shifted nectar placement to make access more difficult. Others produce more nectar overall, compensating for losses to robbers. These adjustments show how plant populations, too, are sculpted by the persistent probing of carpenter bees. Every incision, every buzz, every stolen sip leaves its mark on the unfolding story of plant-insect interaction. In the grander ecological scheme, carpenter bees embody the blurred lines between service and exploitation. They are not villains undermining floral reproduction, nor saints ensuring harvests. They are survivors employing a spectrum of strategies. To watch a female bite a hole in a flower, then minutes later vibrate pollen from another, is to witness adaptability in its purest form. Evolution favors not rigid specialists, but those who can switch tactics when circumstances demand. As the morning warms and the air fills with competing hums, the carpenter bee moves between roles: thief, pollinator, builder. Her wings glisten with pollen dust, her mandibles bear the trace of torn petals, and her body hums with the resonance of frequencies honed over millennia. Whether the flowers benefit or suffer depends on perspective, but the bee thrives regardless. For her, survival is not about honor or fairness. It is about ingenuity, versatility, and the power to carve shortcuts when doors remain closed. In fields, gardens, and wild meadows alike, carpenter bees remind us that the natural world is full of cheats who are also benefactors, of thieves who are also engineers. Their buzzing vibrations sustain crops that feed millions, while their mandible-drilled incisions siphon nectar away from flowers that expect a return. In the tension between robbery and service, these solitary bees carve out a niche that secures both their survival and their place in the ever-shifting balance of ecosystems. The meadow is quiet in the slanting light of morning, dew strung like glass beads across the grasses. Between two stalks, suspended with the delicacy of an architect's drawing, hangs an orb web, a circle of silk so geometrically precise it could be mistaken for design rather than instinct. At its center sits a spider, her legs splayed outward in a cross-like pose, her abdomen painted in alternating bands of yellow, black, and white. To any passerby, she resembles a wasp rather than an arachnid, a warning pattern designed to advertise danger. Yet the true puzzle is not her striped body, but the structure she has added to her web, a bold zigzag band of dense silk running vertically through the middle. Known as a stabilimentum, this white ribbon glows bright in the ultraviolet spectrum, visible to birds and insects alike. Its purpose has baffled scientists for decades, spawning hypotheses as intricate as the web itself. The wasp spider, Argiope bruinici, is one of the most striking orb weavers in Europe and Asia. Females grow large, their abdomens swollen with eggs, while males remain small and inconspicuous. Like most orb weavers, the female builds her trap anew each evening, consuming the old silk and recycling its proteins. The construction follows a sequence as precise as choreography: anchor lines stretched taut, radial spokes radiating outward, and a spiral capture thread laced with sticky droplets. Yet in the final act of her nightly labor, she deposits the stabilimentum, thickened silk woven into a sharp zigzag. Some webs contain a single vertical streak, others too forming an X shape. Always they are conspicuous, unlike the otherwise nearly invisible strands of the web. Theories about the stabilimentum's purpose reflect the multiplicity of selective pressures that shape an animal's evolution. One hypothesis is that the zigzag functions as a lure, reflecting ultraviolet light in a way that mimics floral signals. Many pollinating insects, including bees, butterflies, and flies, are highly sensitive to ultraviolet patterns, which guide them toward nectar sources. To them, the stabilimentum may appear as a glowing beacon against the sky, drawing them toward the center of the web and into the spider's grasp. Experiments comparing webs with and without stabilimenta have shown higher prey capture rates when the decoration is present, suggesting at least part of its role is enticement. Yet another explanation lies in deterrence rather than attraction. Birds, which often blunder into orb webs and tear them apart, are capable of seeing ultraviolet light as well. For them, the bright zigzag may act as a warning flag, preventing accidental collisions. From this perspective, the stabilimentum protects the spider's investment of time and energy, reducing the frequency with which her trap must be rebuilt. This duality, to lure prey while deterring large intruders, exemplifies the balancing act of survival strategies. The same structure may serve multiple functions simultaneously, each beneficial under different circumstances. Some researchers propose additional functions. The thicker silk of the stabilimentum may provide structural reinforcement, stiffening the web's central hub and distributing tension across radial spokes. Others note its potential role in thermoregulation, reflecting sunlight to maintain the spider's body temperature within tolerable limits. Still others suggest it could camouflage the spider herself, breaking up her outline against the background and hiding her from both predators and prey. The fact that stabilimenta vary not only between species but even within individuals, sometimes present, sometimes absent, suggests that their function is context-dependent, a flexible behavior shaped by immediate ecological pressures rather than a fixed rule. Observing the wasp spider in her web, one also witnesses the risks that define her reproductive life. The males, diminutive and drab compared to the females, must venture onto these gleaming traps to approach a mate. Each step across the radial lines carries mortal danger. A misstep could provoke the female into treating him as prey rather than partner. To reduce this risk, males often time their approach when females are preoccupied, during the moments immediately after she molts, or when she is distracted by feeding. Some males even exploit the presence of the stabilimentum, hiding alongside its bright bands to mask their movements. Success in mating is rare and often lethal. The female may consume the male before or after copulation, converting his body into nourishment for her developing eggs. In this sense, the stabilimentum is not only a stage for prey capture, but also the backdrop for one of the most perilous mating dramas in the animal kingdom. The silk that composes the stabilimentum itself is remarkable. Unlike the sticky capture spirals, stabilimentum silk is composed of densely layered fibers that reflect light strongly. Its whiteness is visible even to the human eye, glinting in sunlight against the greenery. Silk proteins, composed of long chains of amino acids, align in crystalline regions that grant tensile strength, while amorphous regions provide elasticity. By varying the ratio of these structures, the spider produces threads suited for different purposes: draglines, capture spirals, egg sacs, or, in this case, stabilimenta. That one animal can spin so many distinct fiber types from the same glands is a marvel of biological engineering. Ecologically, the presence of wasp spiders has grown more conspicuous in recent decades. Once restricted largely to Mediterranean regions, they have expanded northward across Europe, aided by warming climates. Meadows and grasslands across Germany, Poland, and even southern Scandinavia now host these vividly banded arachnids. Their spread illustrates how quickly species can track shifting environments, exploiting new territories when conditions permit. In each new landscape, they bring their orb webs and their enigmatic zigzags, adding fresh variables to local food webs. The prey captured in these webs tells another part of the story. Grasshoppers, crickets, and wasps frequently fall victim, ensnared in the sticky spirals before the spider rushes out to immobilize them with a rapid bite. The venom not only paralyzes, but also begins the process of digestion, liquefying tissues so that they can be consumed through straw-like mouthparts. The stabilimentum's role here may again be double-edged. By attracting certain prey, it boosts the spider's success, but by warning others, it reduces wasteful web damage. The balance between these outcomes may shift daily, depending on prey abundance, light conditions, and the risk of avian interference. For human observers, the wasp spider's web embodies both artistry and mystery. The orb itself demonstrates the efficiency of evolutionary design, maximum capture area with minimal silk investment. The zigzag band, meanwhile, resists simple interpretation, reminding us that not every trait has a single purpose. In nature, structures often emerge from layered pressures, their meanings multifaceted and sometimes contradictory. The stabilimentum stands as a living reminder that function and form are rarely one-dimensional. On a broader scale, the wasp spider illustrates the role of behavioral plasticity in survival. By choosing when and how to construct stabilimenta, the spider adjusts her strategy to local conditions. In shaded habitats, she may forego the decoration. In open meadows flooded with light, she may spin bold streaks. This flexibility allows her to navigate trade-offs between prey capture, predator avoidance, and structural stability. Rather than committing to one solution, she employs many, revealing evolution's preference for adaptable generalists in ever-changing environments. As the day wanes and the meadow dims, the web glows faintly against the darkening sky, the zigzag catching the last rays of light. Within its geometry lies a record of countless generations of trial and error, of spiders that succeeded and those that failed, of webs torn by wind and rebuilt by instinct. Whether the stabilimentum is a lure, a shield, a brace, or a disguise, it endures because it works. Not perfectly, not always, but often enough to tip the balance towards survival. The wasp spider waits, poised at the hub of her shining trap, her legs quivering with the vibrations of insects passing too close. For every visitor that sees only a flower's shimmer, another sees a warning and veers away. Between deception and deterrence, attraction and avoidance, lies the narrow margin by which she feeds, grows, mates, and continues her lineage. In that glowing zigzag, nature has written one of its most enigmatic signatures, a mark that means many things, yet ultimately signals only this: life persists by weaving advantages into every thread. In the dappled shade of a garden hedge, where the breeze jostles leaves and sunlight flickers across tangled stems, a tiny web stretches low to the ground. At first it seems ordinary, just another silken wheel suspended between twigs. But closer inspection reveals oddities. Strands of plant matter, insect husks and dirt fragments hang like ornaments along the supporting threads, strung deliberately as if the spider were decorating its home. At the hub of the web waits a creature that looks like it stepped from the pages of a comic book, a miniature spider, scarcely larger than a fingernail, yet bristling with sharp, colorful spines that jut from its abdomen like horns on a tiny shield. This is the Spiny Orb-weaver, a spider that compensates for its diminutive size with a combination of body armor and architectural tricks that keep it alive in some of the most hazardous corners of the insect world. Spiny orb-weavers belong to the genus Gasteracantha, a group of small but charismatic orb-weaving spiders found across tropical and temperate regions. Their flat, hardened abdomens are fringed with spikes of varying length, some short and stubby, others elongated into sharp spurs. Depending on the species, the body may gleam in shades of crimson, yellow, white, or jet black, often marked with contrasting spots or bands. These bold patterns, combined with the spines, serve a purpose that is both simple and ingenious, to make predators think twice. Birds, lizards, and even other arthropods accustomed to plucking soft-bodied spiders from their webs are less eager to bite something that appears both armored and potentially dangerous. Even if swallowed, the spines may catch in the predator's mouth or throat, turning what would have been an easy snack into an unpleasant ordeal. Yet armor alone does not explain the survival of these spiders. Their webs are built in some of the busiest aerial highways of the undergrowth, corridors where small birds dart, insects throng, and breezes threaten to shred fragile silk. For most orb-weavers, such exposed sites would be risky, as larger animals crash through webs and destroy them, forcing constant rebuilding. Spiny orb-weavers mitigate this risk through a curious addition: lines of debris strung along the main web supports. At first glance, these look like nothing more than clutter, bits of leaf, dried flower parts, or the hollow carcasses of past prey. But their placement is deliberate. Suspended vertically across the web, these flags act as visual markers, making the otherwise invisible trap more conspicuous to larger animals. Birds are far less likely to blunder through a web if they can see warning threads adorned with debris. The sacrifice of camouflage is repaid with reduced destruction, ensuring the spider's investment in silk lasts longer. This strategy of web flagging reveals a subtle tension in the life of an orb weaver. On one hand, invisibility is an advantage for catching insects, which may fly straight into the sticky spirals without realizing the danger. On the other, invisibility is a liability when it comes to protecting the structure itself from larger creatures. Spiny orb-weavers strike a balance. They risk alerting some insect prey in exchange for avoiding catastrophic damage from birds and mammals. The abundance of food in high-traffic corridors justifies the compromise. Even if some prey avoid the web, enough remain careless or desperate to fuel the spider's growth and reproduction. The construction of the web itself follows a ritual repeated daily. Each evening, as the light fades and winds calm, the spider dismantles its old web, consuming the silk proteins for recycling. Then it begins anew, anchoring drag lines to surrounding vegetation before spinning radial lines outward like the spokes of a wheel. Finally, it adds the capture spiral, embedding it with sticky droplets to ensnare insects. By dawn, the trap is ready, its flags dangling conspicuously from support threads, its hub occupied by a squat, spiky sentinel. The cycle of tear down and rebuild is not wasteful, but efficient. Silk degrades quickly in the sun and loses stickiness. Recycling ensures a fresh and effective snare each day. The spider's choice of where to build is equally deliberate. Spiny orb-weavers often select spots exposed to airflow, such as the spaces between branches or the open gaps along hedgerows. Windy corridors funnel flying insects, increasing the likelihood of collisions. These placements, however, also expose the web to greater stress, which is where the spider's reinforced architecture proves crucial. By anchoring with debris-marked lines and constructing smaller, tougher orbs than those of larger species, spiny orb-weavers manage to hold their ground where others cannot. Their very size works to their advantage. A small body exerts less strain on silk, allowing them to balance on threads that would collapse under heavier spiders. Close examination of the spines themselves reveals further adaptations. Unlike the smooth exoskeletons of most spiders, the hardened chitinous projections of spiny orb-weavers function not only as deterrents, but also as structural extensions. Some species exhibit spines that act as levers, distributing mechanical stress across the abdomen when the spider resists capture attempts. In certain tropical species, the spines are brightly colored, signaling toxicity even though the spider's venom is relatively mild. This form of Batesian mimicry plays on predator expectations. A bird that once sampled a genuinely toxic spiny insect may forever avoid anything of similar outline, sparing the orb-weaver from attack. Predation pressures remain intense nonetheless. Parasitic wasps can pierce even spiny abdomens to lay eggs within the spider's body. Jumping spiders with their keen eyesight and agile leaps occasionally overcome the defenses of small orb-weavers. To counter such threats, spiny orb-weavers rely heavily on their webs as early warning systems. Vibrations carry through silk with astonishing clarity. Even a slight tremor alerts the resident, who can drop from the web on a dragline or retreat into nearby foliage. Their vigilance demonstrates how even heavily armored animals must remain cautious. No defense is absolute. Reproduction introduces its own hazards. Males, considerably smaller and less spiny than females, must approach webs with care. Like the wasp spider, the spiny orb-weaver female may mistake a suitor for prey, so males often employ tentative courtship vibrations to announce their intentions. Once mating succeeds, females construct tough, papery egg sacs, sometimes suspended from vegetation near the web. Inside, hundreds of eggs develop, each cocooned in silk and protected by maternal choice of placement. The success of these offspring depends on both the safety of the web's location and the defensive legacy of their mother's spines. In ecosystems, spiny orb-weavers serve as regulators of insect populations. Their webs intercept a wide array of small flying insects, from midges and moths to leafhoppers and beetles. By positioning themselves in traffic-heavy zones, they exploit abundance where other spiders might avoid risk. In gardens, they reduce pest populations naturally, though their unusual shapes and bright colors often draw more curiosity than gratitude. For many people encountering them for the first time, their appearance is almost comical, like armored toys suspended on threads. Yet behind the whimsical look lies a survival strategy honed by evolutionary trial, armor to dissuade enemies, and architectural flourishes to preserve fragile traps in dangerous spaces. The daily rhythms of a spiny orb-weaver embody resilience. Each morning may bring torn silk, damaged anchors, or missing debris flags, but each evening brings renewal. The act of rebuilding, over and over, reflects an investment not just in survival, but in opportunity. By maintaining webs in prime locations, these spiders guarantee a steady stream of prey, offsetting the costs of constant labor. Their persistence reveals how success in nature is less about perfection and more about enduring repetition, adapting to risk with small but effective innovations. As the sun sets behind the hedge and the air cools, the spiny orb-weaver settles at her hub once more. Her spines catch the fading light, casting shadows that exaggerate her already fearsome outline. Around her, debris fragments sway like tiny pendulums, each one both signal and shield. To the untrained eye, the scene may seem cluttered or even careless. To the spider, it is calculated, a fortress disguised as fragility, a trap designed to thrive where danger is greatest. In the competition for aerial highways, she endures by being both conspicuous and untouchable, small yet armored, fragile yet resilient. And in the margins of the garden, amid wind and wings and the constant threat of collision, her spiked silhouette remains, a testament to the power of ingenuity on a miniature scale. On the tender green stems of spring, where new leaves unfurl and buds swell with promise, armies gather. Aphids cluster in dense colonies, their bodies soft, translucent, and barely larger than pinheads. They feed by piercing plant veins and siphoning the nutrient-rich sap meant for growth, draining energy drop by drop. Their numbers can swell into the thousands, transforming a thriving shoot into a withering, stunted remnant. But in this miniature battlefield, there is an apex predator, a bright, rounded figure that advances like a tank, gleaming in shades of red and orange, punctuated with bold black spots. To gardeners, it is the picture of charm. To aphids, it is a warlord whose arrival spells certain collapse. The ladybug, or ladybird beetle, is a deceptively innocent-looking insect that commands power in the realm of micropredation. The ladybug's reputation as a friend to farmers and gardeners rests on its voracious appetite for soft-bodied pests. A single adult can consume dozens of aphids in a day, while a larva, armored in spines and colored in cryptic blues and blacks, devours even more. Over its lifetime, one ladybug may eliminate thousands of aphids, making it one of the most effective natural pest control agents in existence. Yet the means by which it survives and enforces its dominance are not limited to brute consumption. The ladybug is equipped with chemical defenses, striking coloration, and seasonal strategies that allow it to persist in temperate climates, outlasting its prey and its predators alike. The most dramatic of these defenses is reflex bleeding. When threatened, a ladybug exudes droplets of orange-yellow fluid from its leg joints. This fluid is rich in alkaloid toxins that taste bitter and can be harmful to vertebrate predators. Birds, frogs, and lizards that attempt to swallow a ladybug often spit it out in disgust, their beaks or mouths stained by the toxic beads. Some never attempt a second trial, having learned to associate the beetle's vivid warning colors with an unpleasant experience. This strategy of combining aposematic coloration with chemical weaponry is one of evolution's recurring themes, yet in the case of ladybugs, it has been honed to near perfection. Even their round, dome-like shape plays a role, making them difficult for small predators to grasp or swallow whole. The warning colors are not uniform across all ladybug species. While the familiar seven-spotted ladybug of Europe displays large black dots on a red background, others vary widely. Some are yellow with black markings, others black with red spots, and still others bear no spots at all. In some regions, polymorphic populations exist, with different color morphs coexisting in the same environment. These variations are not merely cosmetic. Darker morphs absorb more heat, providing thermoregulatory advantages in cooler climates. Paler morphs fare better in warmer regions, reflecting sunlight and avoiding overheating. Thus, the ladybug's shell is not only a billboard for toxicity, but also a tool for maintaining body function in diverse environments. To understand the ladybug's role as an aphid warlord, one must look at the behavior of aphids themselves. Aphids reproduce at astonishing rates, with many species capable of parthenogenesis, producing live young without mating. In favorable conditions, populations can double in days. They also recruit defenders. Ants, which harvest their sugary honeydew secretions, often guard aphid colonies aggressively. Ant bodyguards chase away or attack predators, including ladybug larvae. This dynamic sets the stage for a miniature arms race. Ladybug larvae, elongated and armored with spines, push through lines of ants with determination, sometimes withstanding attacks long enough to pierce aphids with their sickle-shaped jaws. In response, some ladybug species have evolved waxy coatings or cryptic colorations to better withstand ant defenses. Others overwhelm colonies with sheer appetite, consuming aphids faster than ants can react. The battle between ant farmers and ladybug predators is a hidden drama unfolding on nearly every garden stem. The metamorphosis of the ladybug adds another layer of fascination. Eggs are laid in clusters near aphid colonies, ensuring immediate access to food upon hatching. The larvae, far from resembling the charming adults, look like spiny alligators in miniature. Their mottled black and orange bodies crawl with surprising speed, seizing aphids and injecting digestive enzymes that liquefy tissues for easy consumption. After several molts, the larva attaches itself to a leaf or stem and pupates. Inside the pupal casing, the body dissolves into a soup of cells before reorganizing into the iconic round adult form. The transformation is radical, turning a spined, elongated hunter into a smooth, dome-shaped beetle with delicate wing covers and the ability to fly between colonies. The unfolding of the wings themselves is a marvel of natural engineering. When preparing for flight, a ladybug lifts its hardened elytra and unfolds membranous wings from beneath, structures several times the size of its compact body. The wings, neatly folded like origami fans, extend with hydraulic pressure, then beat rapidly to lift the beetle into the air. This capacity allows ladybugs to disperse across wide areas, seeking out new aphid colonies as old ones are depleted. Their mobility ensures they remain apex predators within their ecological niche, never tied to one dwindling resource patch. Survival across seasons presents another challenge, one met with remarkable communal behavior. As autumn approaches and temperatures drop, ladybugs seek sheltered sites, beneath bark, inside rock crevices, even within the walls of houses. Here they gather in massive aggregations, sometimes numbering in the thousands. These overwintering clusters provide thermal stability, reducing energy expenditure and increasing survival through the cold months. In this suspended state, their metabolism slows and they rely on fat reserves accumulated during summer feeding. When spring warmth returns, they disperse once again, hungry and ready to resume their campaigns against aphids. This annual cycle demonstrates how even small insects have evolved complex strategies to overcome seasonal adversity. From an ecological perspective, the role of ladybugs extends far beyond simple pest control. By suppressing aphid populations, they reduce the transmission of plant viruses, many of which aphids spread as they pierce sap vessels. Their presence therefore benefits not only wild plants, but also agricultural systems, where crops like wheat, beans, and fruit trees are highly susceptible to aphid damage. Farmers have long recognized this value, sometimes releasing ladybugs intentionally as biological control agents. Yet the effectiveness of such releases depends on timing, habitat structure, and the availability of prey. Ladybugs, for all their ferocity, will not linger where aphids are absent. Their allegiance is to survival, not to human cultivation. Despite their protective reputation, ladybugs are not immune to threats. Predatory birds and spiders occasionally overcome their defenses. Parasitic wasps lay eggs inside ladybug larvae or adults, turning their armored hosts into living incubators. Fungal pathogens can sweep through overwintering clusters, decimating populations. Even among themselves, ladybugs are not above cannibalism. Eggs laid near aphid colonies may be consumed by older larvae if food is scarce, ensuring that at least some survive when prey is limited. This harsh reality underscores the unforgiving balance of insect life, where even the warlord must contend with constant risk. In human culture, the ladybug has long been a symbol of luck and charm. Children allow them to crawl on their hands, marveling at their bright shells. Farmers welcome their presence, associating them with healthy crops. But beneath the veneer of innocence lies the truth of their nature: relentless predators, armed with chemical shields, armored bodies, and a reproductive cycle tuned for rapid deployment against sap-feeding pests. Their cuteness is an accident of our perception. In reality, they are among the most efficient enforcers of plant health in temperate ecosystems. As the sun warms the spring stems, a ladybug advances into the heart of an aphid colony. Ant defenders rush to intercept, their mandibles snapping, but the beetle presses on. Aphids scatter in disarray, some falling, others skewered and drained. Behind her, the stem glistens with droplets of her toxic reflex fluid, a warning banner to would-be predators. She spreads her elytra, and her wings unfold in a display of compact engineering, ready to lift her to the next battlefield. To the human eye, she is a charming speck of red in the garden. To the aphids, she is devastation incarnate, a warlord whose reign ensures that plants may grow, bloom, and endure. On the tender stems of a sunlit meadow plant, a strange procession lines the surface like living thorns. Each figure is angular, sculpted with ornate ridges, spines, or helmet-like crests that make them appear more like miniature leaves or plant growths than insects. These are treehoppers, members of the family Membrecidae, a group of sap-feeding insects whose elaborate body shapes disguise them against their host plants. Yet camouflage is only part of their strategy. Along the stem, small ants march with military precision, weaving between the hoppers, pausing to stroke them gently with antennae. At intervals, the treehoppers lift their abdomens and excrete glistening droplets of honeydew, a sugary liquid that the ants eagerly drink. The exchange is clear: food in return for defense. What we witness is not a random gathering but a living contract, a protection racket where treehoppers hire armies to guard them against the dangers of the micro-jungle. Treehoppers are remarkable not just for their diversity of form, with more than 3,000 described species and countless variations in shape and ornamentation, but also for their social behaviors. Their helmets, technically extensions of the pronotum, can take forms resembling thorns, leaves, or even bizarre sculptural flares that defy easy explanation. For predators such as birds or predatory wasps, these disguises make treehoppers difficult to distinguish from the plant. But disguise alone is never enough in a world teeming with danger. Instead, treehoppers invest in alliances, By producing honeydew, they provide ants with a reliable source of carbohydrate-rich food. In return, the ants patrol tirelessly, warding off predators and parasitoids that would otherwise decimate the treehopper colony. The relationship is not passive. Treehoppers actively manage their ant partners, using vibrational communication transmitted through the plant itself. Unlike sounds carried in air, these signals are subtle tremors pulsing through stems and leaves, inaudible to human ears. A mother treehopper can produce rhythmic vibrations that serve as alarm calls. When a predator approaches, perhaps a predatory bug or a parasitic wasp searching for eggs, she emits a sequence of rapid pulses. These signals cause nearby ants to surge forward aggressively, investigating the disturbance and attacking intruders. In experiments, removing ants from treehopper colonies leads to significantly higher predation rates, demonstrating the effectiveness of this communication-based alliance. The vibrational repertoire extends beyond alarms. Some signals appear to regulate ant attendance, encouraging them to remain close, while others may synchronize brood care among related females. This hidden world of tremors reveals a complexity of insect society often overlooked. What seems like a simple sap-sucking bug becomes, on closer examination, a communicator, a manipulator, and a strategist capable of mobilizing forces far larger and stronger than itself. The benefits for the ants are clear. In addition to honeydew, which provides immediate energy, treehoppers often aggregate in groups, ensuring a steady flow of food across the day. Ant colonies stationed near treehopper populations can grow faster, supported by this sugary subsidy. In some ecosystems, the presence of treehoppers even alters the abundance and behavior of ant colonies, reshaping the entire community of invertebrates on a plant. This creates cascading effects. With ants monopolizing the plant for honeydew, other herbivores may be excluded, while predators that normally feed on ants must adapt or shift their hunting grounds. In this sense, the treehopper-ant relationship ripples outward, influencing more than just the participants in the trade. The eggs of treehoppers are another point of vulnerability, and here too the ants play a role. Female treehoppers lay their eggs within plant tissue, often covering them with protective waxy filaments. These threads disguise the eggs and reduce desiccation, but they are not impenetrable. Parasitic wasps can still pierce the plant surface and deposit their own eggs inside. Ants patrolling the stems provide an added shield, deterring wasps through sheer presence. Some treehopper species even remain near their eggs, a rare form of maternal care among insects. These females guard the brood, fending off small predators and reinforcing their protective partnership with ants through constant honeydew production. Predator-prey interactions play out daily along these stems. Ladybugs, voracious consumers of aphids and other soft-bodied insects, will also attack treehoppers if given the chance. But an ant-guarded colony presents a formidable challenge. Ants rush to intercept, biting and spraying formic acid, while treehoppers shuffle closer together, their camouflage blending them into the stem's outline. Parasitic wasps, equally dangerous, hover cautiously around the colony, searching for a gap in the defenses. Only the most determined succeed, and even then, at high risk of injury or death. The ants, small though they are, act as a standing army, enforcing the contract through sheer force of numbers. From an evolutionary perspective, this alliance highlights the power of mutualism. Treehoppers provide a renewable resource, honeydew, without directly harming the ants, while the ants supply protection in an environment filled with threats. Yet, as with any alliance, there are costs. Producing honeydew requires the treehopper to consume large amounts of sap, processing vast quantities of plant fluid to extract the small fraction of sugars they release. This increases the burden on host plants, sometimes weakening them, especially under heavy infestations. The balance of costs and benefits depends on context. In some ecosystems, treehoppers become significant plant pests, while in others, their presence is relatively benign. What makes treehoppers particularly intriguing is their diversity of form and behavior. Some species exhibit extreme helmets shaped like thorns, which deter predators by pure deception. Others resemble leaf stipules or bud scales, disappearing into the architecture of the plant. Still others bear extravagant crests whose function is uncertain, perhaps signals to mates, perhaps decoys against predators. This morphological creativity is unmatched among insects of their size, turning the pronotum into a canvas of evolutionary experimentation. Combined with their vibrational communication and ant alliances, treehoppers represent a convergence of physical disguise and social manipulation rarely seen in such small animals. In agricultural contexts, treehoppers occupy an ambiguous role. On one hand, their feeding can damage crops, particularly legumes and woody plants, by reducing vigor and transmitting plant pathogens. On the other, their role in sustaining ant populations can indirectly suppress other pests. Ants fed on treehopper honeydew may attack caterpillars, beetle larvae, or other herbivores that feed on the same plants. The outcome, whether harmful or beneficial, depends on the complexity of local food webs. Farmers encountering treehopper colonies often perceive them as pests, but ecologists studying their interactions see them as pivotal players shaping entire arthropod communities. Seasonal rhythms further shape their lives. In temperate regions, treehoppers time their reproduction to coincide with periods of plant growth, ensuring abundant sap for their young. Eggs overwinter within stems, protected by wax and plant tissue, hatching in spring when conditions are favorable. Adults emerge in synchrony, often aggregating in conspicuous clusters. These seasonal aggregations enhance the value of ant alliances, since a concentrated group of treehoppers can support larger ant patrols than scattered individuals. Thus, timing, group living, and interspecies cooperation weave together into a tapestry of survival strategies. As the sun dips lower and shadows lengthen across the meadow, the stem-bound colony continues its daily rhythm. Ants patrol ceaselessly, harvesting droplets of honeydew like disciplined soldiers collecting tribute. Treehoppers remain aligned, their ornate bodies masquerading as plant thorns, their vibrations pulsing silently through the stem whenever danger approaches. It is a scene of quiet manipulation, one insect species outsourcing its security to another, using sugar as currency and tremors as orders. To the casual observer, it may look like nothing more than ants tending plants. To those who look closer, it is a protection racket rendered in miniature, a microcosm of agriculture and warfare where farmers hire bodyguards to ensure their survival. Beneath the canopy of Madagascar's forests, where fallen leaves collect in damp drifts and the air smells of rot and earth, movement stirs in the litter. A shape emerges slowly, armored plates glinting faintly in the dim light. It is broad and low, its body segmented like the plates of a medieval shield. At first glance it is unremarkable, another cockroach creeping in the undergrowth. Then, as a hand or a snout draws near, the insect expels a sudden, explosive hiss. The sound is startling, loud enough to echo through the foliage, uncanny in its resemblance to the warning of a snake. Predators freeze. Some retreat. What confronted them was no serpent, no venomous reptile, but a cockroach employing one of the most surprising defensive adaptations in the insect world. This is the Madagascar hissing cockroach, Gromphodorhina portentosa, a species that has become emblematic of its island home. Unlike the vast majority of cockroaches, which produce sound only by stridulation, rubbing body parts together, this species uses an entirely different mechanism. It forces air through spiracles, the openings in its exoskeleton that usually serve for breathing. By contracting its abdominal muscles suddenly, it blasts air outward with force, creating a hiss that can last several seconds and reach surprising volume. The result is both defensive and deceptive, a sound that mimics the threats of animals far larger and more dangerous. The hiss is not a single sound, but a repertoire. Researchers have identified multiple distinct hisses, each with its own context. There is the disturbance hiss, used when the insect is startled or threatened, an acoustic bluff designed to startle predators into hesitation. There is the male courtship hiss, a shorter, repeated signal employed during mating displays. There is also the aggressive hiss, a drawn-out expulsion used by rival males during combat over territory or access to females. In this way, the Madagascar hissing cockroach uses its spiracles not only as breathing valves, but as instruments of communication and intimidation, a rare innovation among insects. The effectiveness of the hiss, lies in the psychology of predators. Birds, reptiles, and small mammals that encounter the cockroach in the litter often rely on auditory cues to assess danger. A sudden hiss, especially one delivered with force, resembles the defensive displays of snakes or the growls of small mammals. Evolution has primed these predators to heed such warnings, as ignoring them can prove fatal. By co-opting this instinct, the cockroach creates an illusion of threat far greater than its true capacity for harm. It is an acoustic masquerade that buys critical moments for escape, yet sound is only part of its arsenal. The Madagascar hissing cockroach is built like a tank. Its exoskeleton is thick and heavily sclerotized, providing resistance against crushing jaws and impacts. The plates overlap in segments, allowing flexibility while maintaining protection, much like armor plating on ancient reptiles. Even when seized, the cockroach often survives, its body bending and flexing in ways that distribute force rather than yielding. Few predators find it worth the trouble to chew through such a stubborn package, especially when combined with the unsettling hiss. The cockroach's lifestyle further enhances its survival. Nocturnal by habit, it emerges after sunset to scavenge among leaf litter and fallen fruit. Its diet is broad, encompassing decaying vegetation, fruits, and organic debris. By feeding on detritus, it plays a crucial role in nutrient cycling, breaking down organic matter and returning it to the soil. In ecosystems prone to disturbance, cyclones sweep Madagascar regularly, toppling trees and scattering plant matter. The role of decomposers like the hissing cockroach becomes essential. Where storms create chaos, cockroaches bring recycling, accelerating the decomposition that fuels regrowth. The hissing cockroach is also remarkable in its size. Adults can reach more than 7 centimeters in length, placing them among the largest cockroach species in the world. Their bulk makes them conspicuous, yet also grants them resilience. Larger body size correlates with thicker armor, greater fat reserves, and enhanced reproductive potential. Females produce egg cases, or oothecae. But unlike many cockroach species that deposit these externally, Madagascar hissers carry them internally until hatching. This form of ovoviviparity provides the developing young with protection during their vulnerable stages, ensuring higher survival rates. When nymphs emerge, they are miniature versions of the adults, immediately mobile and able to begin their lives in the safety of the litter. Within their colonies, social interactions are more complex than one might expect from cockroaches. Males establish territories and hierarchies, competing for dominance through hissing contests and physical confrontations. They rear up, push against rivals with their pronotal shields, and expel forceful hisses as acoustic declarations of status. The loudest, most persistent males often secure prime positions and greater access to females. In this way, the hiss functions not only as a defense, but as a language of power within the cockroach community itself. Thermoregulation adds another dimension to their biology. Madagascar's forests fluctuate between hot days and cool nights, and cockroaches must maintain activity across these shifts. By remaining within the insulating layer of leaf litter, they buffer themselves against extremes, the microclimate beneath the leaves offering higher humidity and stable temperatures. Their dark exoskeleton absorbs heat efficiently when exposed, aiding rapid warming at dawn or after storms. Combined with their nocturnal rhythm, these strategies allow them to operate consistently in a habitat shaped by unpredictability. Predator-prey interactions highlight both the strengths and limitations of their defenses. Tenrecs, small insectivorous mammals native to Madagascar, occasionally feed on cockroaches, their keen sense of smell guiding them through the litter. Yet even tenrecs hesitate when confronted with the hiss, momentarily startled by its force. Ground birds too approach cautiously, some abandoning their attempts altogether. Only the most persistent predators succeed, and even then they expend significant energy overcoming armor and sound. For many, the cost outweighs the benefit, allowing the cockroach to persist despite its visibility. The resilience of the Madagascar hissing cockroach extends beyond natural predators to environmental pressures. Cyclones, common across the island, can strip forests bare, scatter debris, and flood the ground. Many animals perish in such upheaval, yet cockroaches endure. Their ability to subsist on almost any organic material, combined with their protective armor and low metabolic demands, allows them to survive periods of scarcity. When storms recede, they emerge to reclaim their role as recyclers, turning devastation into renewal. In this sense, they are not merely survivors of predators, but also of climate's violence, embodying resilience in its purest form. Human encounters with Madagascar hissing cockroaches reveal another layer of their story. Unlike the household pests that define the cockroach's reputation elsewhere, this species does not infest buildings or transmit disease. Instead, it has become a subject of fascination in laboratories and classrooms, valued for its size, docility, and unique sound production. Studies on acoustic communication, insect physiology, and social hierarchy have all used this species as a model. In culture, they are sometimes kept as pets, their hisses startling visitors but providing a window into the ingenuity of insect defense. To dismiss the hissing cockroach as simply another bug is to overlook the sophistication of its adaptations. It has transformed respiratory spiracles into musical instruments, armor plates into survival shields, and communal behavior into social order. It turns the perception of weakness, a soft-bodied scavenger in a dangerous world, into strength, using deception, toughness, and resilience to outlast challenges. In doing so, it illustrates a broader truth about life on Madagascar, an island where isolation has produced evolutionary experiments found nowhere else on Earth. As night deepens, the cockroach retreats beneath a mat of damp leaves. The forest floor hums with unseen life, predators on the prowl, winds stirring the canopy above. Should any intruder draw too near, the insect's abdomen will contract, spiracles will flare, and a hiss will erupt into the dark, the voice of an imposter, the bluff of survival. Backed by armor and patience, it needs little else. In the aftermath of storms, in the jaws of predators, in the silence of the night, the Madagascar hissing cockroach endures. Its hiss is more than a warning. It is a declaration that fragility can masquerade as strength, and that survival sometimes depends on the clever use of illusion. In the quiet understory of a tropical forest, where shafts of sunlight fall in narrow beams through the canopy, it is easy to believe that the branches sway only with the breeze. Yet among the stems and twigs, one of the world's most accomplished impostors is hiding in plain sight. Its body is elongated, jointed like the sticks around it, colored in mottled browns or leafy greens that match its surroundings to near perfection. Even its movements mimic the forest itself, a slow, rocking sway, perfectly timed to the rhythm of the wind, as if the insect were tethered to the air currents. This is the stick insect, a master of camouflage so convincing that even attentive predators struggle to detect it. But while its disguise above ground is legendary, its survival strategy below ground is equally ingenious, one that recruits ants as unwitting couriers and guardians for its eggs. Stick insects, or phasmids, are among the longest insects on Earth, with some species reaching lengths of more than half a meter. Their body plans are a testament to evolutionary refinement, every angle and shade sculpted to blend seamlessly with twigs, stems, and foliage. Many bear tiny nodules or bark-like ridges on their exoskeleton, breaking up outlines and mimicking the irregularities of wood. Others carry broad, flattened extensions that imitate leaves, complete with fake veins and even simulated bite marks. Yet camouflage is only one side of their story. Unlike fast-moving predators, such as robber flies or chemically defended species like ladybugs, stick insects rely on invisibility and deception. To survive, they must not only hide themselves, but also protect their most vulnerable stage, their eggs. Phasmid eggs are extraordinary in both appearance and strategy. Dropped carelessly to the forest floor, they resemble seeds, tiny capsules with hard shells, and in many species, a distinct fatty cap called a capitulum. To ants patrolling the litter, these eggs are indistinguishable from the eliosomes attached to plant seeds. Eliosomes are rich in lipids and proteins, evolved by plants to attract ants as dispersers. In the plant world, ants carry seeds into their nests, eat the nutritious appendage, and discard the intact seed underground, where it is safe from predators and fire. Stick insects exploit this same system. The capitulum on their eggs lures ants, who pick them up and transport them back to the nest. After consuming the fatty cap, the ants discard the eggs in their refuse chambers, a subterranean fortress where they lie hidden, moist, and protected until hatching. This deception provides multiple benefits. First, it removes eggs from the vulnerable surface, where birds, wasps, and rodents might consume them. Second, it places them in a microclimate that is stable and humid, ideal for embryonic development. Third, it ensures dispersal. A female stick insect may drop eggs from the treetops, but ants can carry them significant distances underground, spreading offspring more widely across the forest. What appears as careless reproduction, dropping seeds of life at random, is in fact a carefully co-evolved mimicry system, one of the most unusual alliances in the insect world. Above ground, stick insects continue their masquerade. Their locomotion is slow, deliberate, and punctuated by the signature rocking sway that synchronizes with the forest's rhythms. This behavior is not random. Predators such as birds and lizards are highly attuned to movement, and the difference between a rigid stick and a living insect is often betrayed by motion. By aligning their sways with gusts of wind, stick insects maintain the illusion of lifeless twigs. In still air, some freeze entirely, adopting rigid postures that render them indistinguishable from branches. Others employ thanatosis, the act of playing dead, dropping suddenly to the ground and remaining motionless, sometimes for hours until the danger has passed. Some species add another layer of defense, sudden flashes of wings. Normally tucked away and hidden beneath cryptic forewings, the hind wings of certain stick insects bear bright colors, crimson, azure, or stark black and white patterns. When threatened, the insect erupts in a sudden display, startling predators with the unexpected flare. This startle tactic buys seconds for escape, after which the insect folds its wings and vanishes once more into the background of sticks and leaves. The juxtaposition of invisibility and flamboyance demonstrates the dual strategies at play: avoid detection if possible, shock and disorient if discovered. The ecological role of stick insects extends beyond their own survival. As voracious herbivores, they consume large quantities of foliage, influencing plant growth and community dynamics. In some tropical regions, their populations reach densities that significantly alter forest leaf cycles. Their feeding produces litter that fuels decomposition, linking them to nutrient cycling processes that sustain forest ecosystems. Yet their slow movements and cryptic appearance belie this impact, making them seem less consequential than they truly are. Behind their disguise lies the quiet force of a herbivore that shapes vegetation patterns at scale. Predation pressures on stick insects are relentless, and their survival depends on more than camouflage alone. Birds probe branches with sharp beaks, monkeys pluck leaves with keen eyes, and predatory insects like mantises scour foliage for motion. The stick insect's reliance on disguise reflects the evolutionary principle that not all organisms can fight or flee. Some endure by disappearing into their environment so thoroughly that detection itself becomes improbable. Their eggs too embody this philosophy, disguised as seeds so convincingly that even the ants are fooled. The life cycle of a stick insect reflects patience. Eggs may remain dormant in the soil for months, even years, waiting for the right environmental cues to hatch. When they do, nymphs emerge as miniature versions of adults, already elongated and cryptic, ready to climb toward the canopy. Growth is slow, punctuated by successive molts as they shed their exoskeletons and expand in size. Each molt carries risks, exposure, vulnerability, and the need for concealment during the soft-bodied interval before the new exoskeleton hardens. Yet those that succeed grow into formidable masters of mimicry, extending the lineage of deception into the next generation. The relationship between stick insects and ants is particularly fascinating from an evolutionary standpoint. Unlike most insect-plant-animal interactions, where mutualism is common, this is pure exploitation. The ants gain nothing from the eggs beyond a morsel of fatty tissue. They are duped into providing transport and protection for the developing insect, a service they normally reserve for seeds. Yet this exploitation persists because the cost to ants is negligible. Their colonies are vast, their diets diverse, and the deception, though constant, is not crippling. In this balance lies stability, an alliance maintained by trickery, tolerated by indifference. Even within human culture, stick insects have captured imaginations. Their uncanny resemblance to twigs has made them symbols of invisibility and patience. Some species are kept in captivity, where their eggs continue to fool even careful observers, the tiny seed-like capsules indistinguishable from plant matter. Their size too commands attention. The giant phasmids of Southeast Asia rank among the heaviest and longest insects known, rivaling small birds in length. That such creatures can remain hidden in plain sight, undetected among branches, is a testament to the power of mimicry. As dusk settles in the forest, the stick insect remains poised on its branch, unmoving, its silhouette merging with the lattice of twigs. Below, ants scurry along the forest floor, carrying what they believe are seeds back to their underground chambers. They do not know they are participating in a deception, ferrying the offspring of the still figure above into secure nurseries. It is an arrangement born not of cooperation but of cunning, free transport, free protection, and safe incubation, all purchased with a simple trick of evolutionary resemblance. In the end, the stick insect's survival is a story of layered illusions. It is not fast, not armored, not chemically defended, yet it thrives by blending so completely into its surroundings that even its eggs vanish into the routines of other species. Camouflage above ground, deception below it, patience through time. These are the weapons of an animal that has turned invisibility into dominance. And as the wind stirs once more, the branches sway, and the insect sways with them, indistinguishable from the forest itself. A living ghost, whose presence is felt only in the quiet expansion of its lineage. On the edges of a summer meadow, where milkweed plants rise with broad leaves and pale blossoms, small striped caterpillars crawl slowly along the stems. At first they appear fragile, soft-bodied and vulnerable, their bodies adorned with black, yellow and white bands. Yet these caterpillars carry within them one of the most remarkable chemical secrets in the insect world. By feeding on milkweed, they ingest toxins that could kill most herbivores. But before feeding in earnest, the caterpillars perform a curious ritual. They cut through the leaf's veins with their mandibles, severing the flow of sticky latex. This latex, a defense evolved by the plant, gums up the mouths of careless feeders and delivers a dose of cardinalides, compounds that disrupt the sodium-potassium pumps of animal cells, potentially leading to cardiac failure. By cutting the veins first, the caterpillars reduce latex pressure, allowing them to consume the leaf tissue more safely. What should be a lethal trap becomes, through behavioral adaptation, the foundation of survival. The act of eating poison is not mere resistance but outright theft. Monarch caterpillars do not simply avoid harm from cardinalides, they sequester them, incorporating the toxins into their own tissues. When they pupate and emerge as butterflies, their bodies remain infused with these compounds. The brilliant orange and black wings of adult monarchs serve as aposematic signals, warning birds and other predators that they are toxic and unpalatable. Laboratory experiments have demonstrated that birds learn quickly. After tasting a monarch, they vomit, associate the vivid colors with nausea, and avoid them thereafter. In this way, the monarch butterfly weaponizes the defenses of its host plant, turning a poisonous meal into a permanent chemical shield. But the monarch's story is not confined to chemistry. Equally extraordinary is its journey, a migration spanning thousands of kilometers, one of the most impressive feats in the insect world. In North America, monarchs breed during the summer across vast regions of the United States and southern Canada. As autumn approaches and temperatures drop, they embark on a southward flight toward Mexico, navigating with a precision that belies their delicate appearance. The same butterflies that hatched from milkweed in the northern plains travel to the high-altitude Oyamel fir forests of central Mexico, a journey of more than 3,000 kilometers. There, millions gather in dense roosts, their orange wings cloaking tree trunks like living tapestries. The mechanism guiding this migration is as remarkable as the feat itself. Monarchs use a time-compensated sun compass, integrating the position of the sun with an internal circadian clock. By orienting themselves according to solar azimuth and adjusting for the shifting arc of the sun throughout the day, they maintain a steady southward bearing. Specialized photoreceptor cells in their eyes detect polarized light, allowing them to determine the sun's position even under cloud cover. Their antennae house circadian clocks that synchronize with daylight cycles, ensuring that orientation remains accurate across hours of flight. This integration of celestial cues with internal timing represents a navigational system of astounding sophistication, rivaling that of migratory birds and sea turtles. The monarch's reliance on celestial navigation is further complemented by magnetoreception. Evidence suggests they can sense the Earth's magnetic field, providing a backup compass on overcast days when sunlight is obscured. Such redundancy ensures reliability on a journey where error could mean death. Unlike many migratory animals, the monarchs that reach Mexico do not return north in spring. Instead, they overwinter in diapause, conserving energy until temperatures rise and then begin the journey northward. Along the way, they breed, and it is their descendants, often the third or fourth generation, that complete the return to the northern breeding grounds. This multi-generational relay adds another layer of complexity to their migration. Individuals that have never seen the north instinctively fly there, guided by genetic and physiological programs that remain incompletely understood. The chrysalis stage of the monarch is equally captivating. After days of feeding, the caterpillar suspends itself from a stem or leaf by a silk pad, hanging in a J shape before shedding its skin. Beneath lies the jade-green chrysalis, flecked with gold spots that gleam as if painted with metallic leaf. Within, the body liquefies, tissues breaking down and reorganizing into entirely new structures, wings, compound eyes, and proboscis forming from clusters of undifferentiated cells. Over the course of about 2 weeks, the chrysalis shifts in color, the green fading as the orange and black of the adult wings become visible. The moment of emergence reveals the miracle of metamorphosis, the frail body unfolding damp wings that harden and expand, ready to carry the butterfly on its journey. Predator-prey interactions continue to shape monarch survival throughout their life cycle. While cardinolides deter many birds, some predators have evolved tolerance. The black-headed grosbeak and the black-backed oriole of Mexico are among the few avian species capable of feeding on overwintering monarchs without succumbing to toxins. Their predation removes large numbers of butterflies from roosting sites each winter, though the colonies remain vast enough to endure. Other threats arise from parasitic protozoans, such as Ophriocistis electrocera, which infect monarchs during their larval stages and reduce their lifespan or flight ability. These pressures underscore the precarious balance of defenses and vulnerabilities that define the monarch's existence. Ecologically, monarchs play multiple roles. As herbivores of milkweed, they influence plant population dynamics, selecting for traits that balance toxin production and accessibility. As prey, they test the tolerance and adaptability of predators. As pollinators, though less efficient than bees, they contribute to the reproduction of diverse wildflowers encountered during migration. But perhaps their greatest ecological role is symbolic. They are living indicators of environmental change. Because their migration spans such vast regions, they're sensitive to habitat loss, pesticide use, and climate fluctuations. Declines in monarch populations signal larger disruptions in ecosystems across North America, from the loss of milkweed in agricultural landscapes to the degradation of overwintering forests in Mexico. The communal roosts of monarchs in Mexico are spectacles of biology and ecology. Millions of butterflies crowd onto branches, each individual contributing to a microclimate that shields the colony from cold. Their overlapping wings conserve heat, while their combined weight bends boughs under orange masses. As the morning sun strikes the forest, the clusters loosen and waves of butterflies lift into the air, transforming the sky into a fluttering sea of orange. This behavior is not mere aggregation, but survival strategy. In unity, they endure conditions that would kill them in isolation. Their presence also brings cultural and spiritual significance. In parts of Mexico, the monarch's arrival coincides with Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, and is seen as the returning souls of ancestors. Biology and human meaning intersect in this annual phenomenon, elevating the monarch beyond insect into symbol. The theft of poison and mastery of celestial navigation converge in the monarch butterfly as a story of paradox. It is delicate yet resilient, fragile in form yet capable of a journey spanning continents. It is a thief of chemistry, turning deadly compounds into personal shields, and a navigator of skies, using the sun itself as compass. Its migration, dependent on multiple generations, embodies continuity across time, where no individual completes the cycle, but the lineage as a whole sustains it. Few animals illustrate so clearly how survival is not about strength or speed alone, but about ingenuity, adaptation, and the seamless integration of physiology with environment. As autumn winds sweep across the plains, a monarch lifts from a fading milkweed, its wings catching the sun. The orange patterns flash like a warning to predators, yet to the human eye they shimmer with beauty. Ahead lies a journey of thousands of kilometers, guided by light and clock, by magnetism and instinct. Behind lies the theft of poison, the mastery of metamorphosis, the triumph of disguise and endurance. In every wingbeat, the monarch carries the weight of evolutionary innovation, a continent-spanning miracle written in orange and black.